Like, yeah, I won that hustings and I wasn't even fucking invited.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Well, I mean, you know, you remember the footage of it got literally millions of views.
It's the exposure.
We got front page coverage in newspapers, and the reactions of everybody who saw it, if you read the comments and look at the likes and so on, was good job. Several debates that happened on mainstream platforms, BBC, ITV, LBC, and so on, that you weren't invited to because and while Ofcom say, oh, every candidate needs to be fairly represented, actually that's just not true because, you know, they would invite Labour, Conservative, Lib Dem, Green Party, but nobody else. You know, he's not physically imposing. I mean, I remember thinking at that hustings like, wow, he is really small.
He is really little, man.
He really is.
Literally, about 5'1" or something.
But he is a genuinely like nasty individual. I boil down politics to being defined by the distinction between friends and enemies. So somebody who is a politician is somebody who plays that game for a living, basically. And it's primarily a kind of, in the modern world, in democracies, it's a dialectical game where before it would have been literally like physical combat. Today it's about ideas and it's a battle of ideas. And so a politician is somebody who is, well, so who plays that game. Truth is the kind of image of complexity and like just incomprehensibleness that politics has is itself part of the strategy. Because if people feel that they can't even begin to understand what's actually happening, well, why even bother?
Everyone knows who we are, basically, but for those that don't, this is Donald Griffiths. He is the content creator. He's the guy behind the camera all the time. You've probably seen him in the gym, or you've seen him, you know, just follow him behind my trail video in some sort of thing, or on the campaign. You know, like
I'm always doing something. Whether it's the gym or the campaign.
Yeah, he's always behind the camera.
I'm about.
This is Charlie Downs. Now, you've probably seen his name almost on everything that I was doing throughout the campaign. You know, it's like promoted by Charlie Downs. Charlie Downs was my campaign manager.
Yes.
He was like I don't know how to put it, like the sort of guy orchestrating, stirring the pot, you know, like managing the whole thing. It was a massive, colossal task, but he did it, and it was fucking amazing.
Yeah, it was a good time. Yeah,
it was a good time.
I like to think of it as I was the brains and you were the brawn, you know?
It felt like that. I'm not gonna lie, it felt like that a lot of the times. Like, a lot of the times I remember I was just like, Rob, what the fuck's going on? And then you're just like, you gotta say this, do this. I was like, oh yeah, of course I knew that. Yeah. I knew that. Like,
yeah. But it's interesting, you know, the three of us, we come from different walks of life, but, you know, the campaign, it really brought us together, and it was a good experience. It was a good time, you know?
It's true.
Yeah, it was a journey. It was an adventure.
It's true. We were all so different. Like we had a lot of interesting like chats on the bus. Innit?
We did
many. A lot of interesting. So to be honest, yeah. Well, I learned a lot. I learned a lot. I didn't think I thought I knew a lot, but I learned a lot on that trip.
Yeah,
I learned a lot. You know, that's the beauty of life, isn't it? You never ever know everything. It's a never-ending learning journey.
Yeah.
That's the thing. No one knows everything, and that's, I guess, the beauty of life.
We all learn a lot. I think the most interesting thing for me was actually just seeing really how this all works. And I was speaking specifically about how essentially non-establishment candidates, non-regime approved candidates are systematically shut out from the kind of, you know, the taking part in the actual democratic process, because there were several debates that we were speaking about this, several debates that happened on mainstream platforms, BBC, ITV, LBC, and so on, that you weren't invited to because and while Ofcom say, oh, every candidate needs to be fairly represented, actually that's just not true because, you know, they would invite Labour, Conservative, Lib Dem, Green Party, but nobody else. And that really hampered our ability to reach the general public because you had your audience, obviously, and we generated some incredible attention. But in terms of actually reaching your average person, you know, people who aren't online and so on, it's really, really difficult without that kind of mainstream attention.
Yeah.
And there's also the bureaucracy behind these things, behind elections and so on. It's just, it makes your head spin how many hoops you have to jump through, how much BS you have to go through, and the idiots that you have to put up with in the process.
Yep. I think literally those debates it was like, we was talking about this a minute ago, it was literally the difference between winning or losing. If you weren't in those debates, you're not winning. It's as simple as that. You're just tailing behind whoever was in those debates. So that was the main thing I learned from that.
You know, like I'm not very political. Like that was the first political thing I really got into. I don't follow nothing. I never really voted. I was one of those guys that doesn't do a lot. So coming and seeing how it is, and seeing you running as an independent candidate, and just how much non-airtime you get.
Yeah.
It's mad, isn't it? Like it's all, and you can see how fixed it is. Like, you know, from my perspective, from a commoner's perspective, you can see how fixed it is. Like it's just impossible, isn't it? But
you know what? I always love fucking, because I always am. I'm the fucking underdog, and I love being that person, coming from that position. But those, what was it? It was like ITV, LBC, and I think there was two BBC ones. But between those 4 debates, it was just like, fuck, that's it, it's done.
Yeah.
I remember even saying, do you remember I put a message in our high command group chat? I was like, they've fucked us. There's no way we can win it without something massive happening, isn't it?
And to be clear, we were trying. I was emailing, I was making phone calls, trying, but they just won't listen. They just will not have you, you know. And it's you know, it's not fair. It's ultimately the point.
It's fixed.
Unless you literally just boot down the door and get... Because I almost felt like that's what we did with that.
The hustings. Unless you go to a hustings and make your voice heard through force, you know, you just start
the
heckling,
hustings.
then you've got no chance. That was incredible.
That was the only coverage we actually got when you think about it. That's the only that's literally the only way you can get
that
coverage.
Went huge.
Like, it wasn't the only, but that was like, look, that was the sort of only public engagement that Sadiq Khan or Susan Hall done.
Yeah.
Sort of with people, you know, like face to face. We weren't invited, but we walked out of there winning. We literally, I walked out of there like, I won that hustings and I wasn't even fucking invited.
Well, I mean, you know, you remember the footage of it got literally millions of views.
It's the exposure.
We got front page coverage in newspapers, and the reactions of everybody who saw it, if you read the comments and look at the likes and so on, was good job.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly.
Because when we were in the room, there were certain people who were a bit like, how dare you do this? You know, this is a very proper, polite type thing. You shouldn't be doing this. And we walked out of there to some people saying like, yeah, get out. But actually, to the average, you know, to the general public, what we did there was applauded. And I think that says a lot. You know?
It wasn't. I remember sitting there and thinking, is this right? We're supposed to be doing this? I was just holding the camera like, yeah. Okay, what's next? And I remember they were saying, get out. And he was going, yeah, okay. And he was just sitting there and we wasn't moving. And I was like, I'm just trying to film and figure out what to do. And do you know what? I did talk to a lot of people and like, fair enough, it did get you the exposure. It got you a lot more. It got you exposure, innit? That's what it did do. But
but it could have been so much better though. But obviously, you know, like the main shit, they didn't even want to put my name in the headlines. And,
how could it have been so much better if they got your name? In the headlines?
Like they put a man heckled that. You know, it's the headline, and then in the story they said the details. But you know, most people, you know, I think we posted it on most of the social media channels, and it got like hundreds of thousands of views. And most people know exactly what time it is.
For me though, it was that experience of being like in the eye of the storm. Like it's like right in the middle of this thing.
Do you know what it is? Do you know what? People don't know how it was because they see the little clips that I put together and whatever and bits of newspaper. There was literally a whole ring around us, of people just getting pissed off.
Literally,
and we were just
like
sitting there.
Dozens and dozens of people with their
four people in the middle. I'm running around with my camera, and we're just in the middle, and it's just kind of quiet. And like, there's occasionally a person going, "Can you please come?" And everyone's going, "Yeah, no."
I remember.
And that was it.
I remember
thinking
thinking at one point, like, we're in the eye of the storm, and I remember thinking, like, almost like, everything that's wrong with the world right now is a summary of it in the world right now. We're sitting right in the middle, like in the eye of the storm, and then, you know, they were chatting some shit about, we had a pantomime last week. This is a fucking pantomime. On the stage, we've got, you know, the 4 regime-approved puppets that have been placed there, and in the crowd, we was in. It was the JW3 Jewish Community Centre, and it wasn't, you know, your
it wasn't
average.
It wasn't a diverse set of like views. It was pure like pro-Labor people, basically.
And they were the general gist I got from the people that were in there, from the Jewish community. They were Zionists in there. That was a very strong sort of Zionist event that supports the, you know, the agenda, the establishment, and, you know, the whole way the way the world's moving at the moment.
There were definitely people who supported Sadiq Khan, you know,
100%.
Well, there was a row in front of us all said Sadiq Khan.
No, the first 3 rows. It was the first 3 rows. It was like
Sadiq Khan's team.
Team Sadiq. And then I think it was to the back left, it was Susan Hall's sort of crowd. And then I think right at the back, it was just all the news presenters and whatever. And it was just like, I remember thinking like, everything that's wrong with the world it's like it's right here, right now. You know, they're literally playing this silly game in here, and then telling me at the end as we walked out. Remember, there was like, we had a pantomime. You know, the last thing he sort of shouted out, we had a pantomime last week. We don't. It's not this week or whatever. And I just remember thinking, is this fucking guy serious? We've walked into this hustings, and they've got like these pre-approved questions.
Yeah. That was the thing. They didn't even open questions up to the crowd.
This
and that
is
was
what
the
I'm
point.
saying. That's not hustings.
Because we went in there with the intention of asking a question when the Q&A came up, but there was no Q&A. Ordinarily, these things, you have a Q&A where you take questions from the crowd, but it really illustrates just how much of a theatre production it was, that they had this little list of pre-approved questions and nobody was allowed to, which was what forced you to do what you did.
And on top of that, it was the answers were all scripted by the candidates on
Literally
there.
a pantomime.
That is literally the definition of a pantomime.
Yeah.
And it was just like, hold on, I was just thinking, how is this a hustings?
Yeah.
And you're telling me, making a joke about a pantomime, and I'm the only one who's coming up with something original, saying it,
Yeah.
you know, like, it's a fucking joke, man.
Yeah. Yeah, but hey, it was a lot of fun. You got to say
It
that.
was surreal. That's how I felt.
Yeah.
I remember
It was a
surreal.
moment, innit? I'd say that probably was maybe one of the highlights of the campaign.
For sure. Yeah.
Well, if it wasn't that, what was it? It had to be that, really.
Yeah,
the highlight.
it was because I got to stick it on Little Man.
Yeah.
I got it, and he felt it. He for sure felt it.
Wait, he ran away. He went
he
and
ran
hit,
away. That's
didn't
why
he?
we left. A lot of people don't know, but that's why we left.
Yeah.
Because I was willing. You lot remember? I was willing to just sit there the whole fucking evening.
But he just went away.
And then I remember at one point, I'm looking round, and then all right, he's gone. He'd left. He went behind the stage. He had left.
We thought
and
he
then,
left.
Yeah, then Charlie said to me, Charlie has said to me a couple of times, maybe we should just leave now. It's not going to look good if police come in and whatever.
Yeah.
And then I remember at one point he said it to me again, and then I just thought, yeah, he's gone.
He's not even here.
Well,
Yeah,
he's not even here.
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Do
Yeah.
you know what? Yeah, like I've got a big regret from that time actually, because I remember that guy. He was saying, we'll let you answer your question, and then if you just leave after that. And I was thinking, there was the guy on the side. He was kind of alright, and I was thinking, should I just quickly ask him? But then I didn't know what he was on.
But I did. I said,
surreal.
No, I said yes. Let's do it.
There was another guy. It was so surreal. I didn't know what to do. I thought, let me just film this, and then I'll just get on with, I'll do my part. And I was thinking, I wish I just asked that guy, because then you would have got to ask the question, and then we would probably have more coverage or whatever. Like, but
it wasn't even. I wouldn't have even asked the question. It was just I would have come up on the stage and took a seat with them. And that was
if that had been the outcome, that would have been amazing. And he did invite you up on the stage at one point.
Yeah, that's what he said. I invite you up to ask a
Yeah.
question or whatever, and then the second he said that, all the fucking God, it was just like no, that's all I heard. No.
I tell you another highlight though was watching you jump in the Thames out the front of the
fucking hell, that was mad. Yeah.
That was so mad. But I remember the build. What people don't understand again is the build up to that. The like half an hour that we were there before you did that, where we were just like, you were just sort of like waiting around, and we were just like, are we actually going to do this?
Yeah.
And we were like practicing it over and over again, and you were like half jumping and all that stuff. It was just,
I remember it like this. Like we were standing there, and then he went, "All right, I'm gonna do it now." And then he just ran.
He was like, "Oh, is that actually gonna do it?"
I was like, and he just jumped in. I was like, "Oh shit, you actually did."
That's what you do though.
That's just style, isn't it?
Yeah.
Apparently, there's sharks in the Thames. I didn't-
Sharks.
In that bit.
No, there is sharks. Sharks swim in the Thames. That's what I found out. But I'm assuming
What type
they're
of
not.
sharks?
I don't know. I need to find out which one. But there's sharks in the Thames because it's obviously goes down into the
There was
ocean.
a whale in the Thames once. I remember that.
Yeah, well, I mean that would swim up the Thames, isn't it? So yeah, I was swimming with sharks in the Thames, boys.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, swimming with sharks is sums up the election, I'd say.
Oh, you've seen me swim with sharks before as well.
Yeah. No, it's true though. Swimming with sharks sums up the elections. Mad.
Yeah.
Like I said, like I don't know a lot about. I'm not a politics guy, but that really did open my eyes to how unfair it is to anyone who's outside of the I suppose main parties, isn't it? It's just it's not fair.
But people might laugh at me saying that because they look at someone like Sadiq Khan or Susan Hall and think, "Shark, come on, really?" But these people are not like, Sadiq Khan's a nasty little piece of work. He's not physically imposing. I mean, I remember thinking at that hustings, like, wow, he is really small.
He is really little.
He really is.
Literally.
About 5'1" or something.
But he is a genuinely nasty individual, like a genuinely vindictive and manipulative and unpleasant.
Most people don't know that about him.
Yeah, because the thing is as well, I remember thinking this at the hustings. He is actually, for whatever you want to say about him, he is a skilled politician. By which I mean he's somebody who is good at playing language games. He's good at controlling controlling dialogues.
Yep.
And that is, I mean, whatever you want to say, that does make a good politician. I mean, obviously he uses it for terrible ends because London's collapsed under his reign. But, you can't underestimate these people. I think that's a mistake that people make, is you can't underestimate people like Sadiq Khan, because the moment you do, that's when he stabs you in the back, because he's got no scruples. He's got no problem being a little bit duplicitous and unpleasant,
That's the thing. He's a lot of things, but I'd say he's anything but stupid. He is a smart little piece of work. And he really does understand politics and how people work and how to play them, innit? That is really what you're doing, innit? You're playing them. And
I mean, that's what a politician is, isn't it? It's just being able to be in the right place, say the right thing, call on his minions and do what he's got to put in the right place. But what is the definition of a politician? Like, what is actually a politician?
Definitely an answer for
Charlie. Good question. Yeah. The way that I would describe it is, I almost think of it as like, how you have a technician, you have a politician, someone who sort of engages in politics. Well, that brings up the question, well, what's politics? And that's a huge question. We could sit here all day talking about that. But I'd boil down politics to being defined by the distinction between friends and enemies. So somebody who is a politician is somebody who plays that game for a living, basically. It's primarily a kind of, in the modern world, in democracies, it's a dialectical game, where before it would have been literally like physical combat. Today it's about ideas, and it's a battle of ideas. And so a politician is somebody who who plays that game and tries to use it to advance their own station and ultimately to acquire more power, because politics is ultimately about power. And so a politician, that's what they do, basically, is what I'd say.
Yeah, man, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the team. It's just the head of the team trying to win.
Yeah, but it's somebody who understands, because the way that I would describe politics as an industry, if you want to think about it in that way, is it's a network of people, and every single person in that network has a certain level of power, and their level of power is defined by their connections. So the more connections you have, and the more connections you have to people who are powerful, the more powerful you are. Because if you can pick up the phone and get on the phone with Tony Blair, if you can pick up the phone and call Nigel Farage, that means you're powerful, because not everybody can do that. And so you advance your station by creating those connections and kind of climbing the ladder, essentially. And so a politician is somebody who does that for a living, somebody who does that to essentially advance to a position of power.
Yeah. But in this case, it's just, governing the country, innit?
Yeah.
So being able to persuade people around you to do the things you want to govern the country.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, man, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I know what a politician is, but I think defining it is kind of mad. Like, when you think about...
That's the thing, when you actually start thinking about what these things are, putting them into words, it is actually quite hard. Because you intuitively understand what a politician is and what politics is, but to actually try and boil it down into words is difficult.
Yeah, exactly.
Most people don't think about these things.
Yeah, exactly. That's what that's what I want to do. I want to I feel like I'm like I said, I'm not a politician. I'm not a politician. I'm not into politics. So I'm going to ask the dumb question.
Yeah.
And even that, it's not even a dumb question really, because the definition is kind of hard. It takes a long time to...
Okay, here's another idea then. Power. Again, power is one of those words that people throw around, but not many people know how to define it. But the way that I would define power is simply the ability of one person to get another person to do what they want them to do.
Yeah,
right?
I remember you said this before.
And the most effective way to achieve that is to have other people also telling that person what you want them to do. I.e., if you have an organized group, let's say there's 5 of you, 5 versus 1, 5 wins every time. Yeah. Whether this is a fight, whether this is a war, or whether this is a conversation or an argument or a debate, 5 beats 1 basically every time. Yeah. And so what that means is organization is power. If you are organized, then you can more easily impose your will on individuals. I think we spoke about this concept before, the notion that the organized 100 will always defeat the disorganized 1,000, because the organized 100 can pick off the disorganized 1,000 one by one, because they move as a unit. And that's what politics is. The game of politics is being the most well-organized group so that you can outmaneuver your opponents. And we're actually seeing this in real time with the election that's happening right now, because the Conservative Party is completely collapsing literally across the entire country.
Very disorganised, aren't they? Yeah.
Because they're really disorganised. They have no money, they have no plan, whereas Reform, for instance, or indeed the Labour Party, are far more far more well organised. They have a far more clear and unified direction to their movements, which means that they're succeeding. Again, whatever you want to say about it, that's just true, right?
Yeah. That's something I noticed. Well, one of the main things I learned from campaigning to become mayor of London is how well organised the Labour Party are.
Oh,
you know, like after I realised, you know, all right, we was out in our campaign party bus, you know, visiting. We visited every corner of London, and we done that, and I'm super proud of that.
Yeah.
But then when I look at what the Labour Party done is they set up events on Eventbrite.
Yeah.
And they had teams in every borough every day.
Yeah.
Like, you know, there'll be a canvassing team in Bromley, a canvassing team in Greenwich, a canvassing team in Harrow. Just literally every day there were events.
I was going to make this point is when you think about our group, our faction, what we were working with in that kind of political arena, it was me, you, Donald, Ash, and Jack. And that
tiny
was
little team.
Pretty much it.
I mean,
right?
we had
and then we had volunteers. We had volunteers and so on. But that was the team, basically.
That was the team,
and when you think about that, us five versus the entire machine of the Labour Party, Conservative Party, Lib Dem Party, and Green Party, is actually crazy.
How many is in each team? Sorry, like how many people are in Labour?
Oh well, I mean,
they've got hundreds.
Yeah, the Labour, the Labour. You remember when we were at the hustings? It said Sadiq Khan's team. There was like over a dozen of them.
Yeah, that's true.
And that was Sadiq, and that probably wasn't even his whole team. I was going to say that was his inner circle.
Yeah.
And it was still twice, 3 times as many people as what we had.
Our entire team.
Yeah. And ultimately, that's what it comes down to. You know, they had more resources at their disposal, so they won.
Yeah.
You know, because
also they had power, like you said as well. You know, like for example, the Labour Party, they still have a hold over all the unions, and that brings in a massive chunk of the votes. And, you know, it's just
they've done another thing as well, like where we was kind of spread out through the month. Like we was doing it most days and stuff. They had these really like condensed days which had a lot of stuff going on. So like the last week, it's like they just blew everything out in one go, and it was mad. They just flooded everything, and I suppose you can only really do that with like the resources that they have. I suppose, isn't it? Like,
yeah. But that's the thing, you know. We the point of it is we tried our best, right? And we did good. We did damn good. We got a lot of votes for an independent candidate, and we had a lot of fun. We had the bus, we had volunteers, and there was a real energy. There was a real kind of excitement around the campaign, which I don't think people like Sadiq Khan had. Because we're seeing the same thing now.
Absolute zero. Every time I saw him, he looked like he was just having the worst time of his life.
And we're seeing the same thing now.
He looked terrified he'd lose. He was just like, you could see he looked mentally unhappy.
Yeah, and I'm sure he is.
Emotionally unhappy.
I'm sure he's probably a husk of a person, you know, because that's what politics does to people ultimately. But we're seeing the same thing with the national election with Keir Starmer, right? Because he's so boring. The point I'm making though about politics is nobody gets excited anymore, you know, because there's nothing to get excited about. Our campaign got people excited. You could tell, you could see it in people's faces.
Energy was through the roof.
But the unfortunate fact is we just did not have the resources to actually win. You know, we didn't have the organisation, we didn't have the manpower, and that just comes as a result.
I'm going to disagree and say it weren't the resources or the map, because I think our team was really effective.
For sure.
I don't think, you know, say we did exactly the same things, except we had a team of 100. Obviously, we would have got more votes, a better result. We would have reached out to more people. But I honestly believe it was those. You know, it was 4 debates, those 4 public debates. That is literally win or lose. If you're not in them debates, well, I think we could have had the same size team. And if we were in those debates, we would have been within the top 4.
But then the question is, how do you get on those debates? And the excuse that they would give is, well, you have to have evidence.
You have to have maybe in the top 4 the last time.
You have to have evidence of previous electoral success, which is ridiculous to expect that of an independent candidate, because many independent candidates only run once. You know, and so it's just rigged against. Independent
this is what I'm saying. If those 4, you know, we've got the Green, Lib Dems, Labour, Tory. They're the top 4 for the last. They've forever been the top 4. No one's ever going to make it into those debates. Then,
you say that.
I mean, Reform possibly the next time going to do. Well, they're going to do very well this general election, but the mayoral elections, what were they? They were 5th, so they're not going to make it into next time's debate, are they? No one's ever going to make it in because it's this silly little game they're playing.
But I mean, even speaking of Reform, you know, even their candidate wasn't allowed to the debates because of the same reason, because of no past.
He wasn't in the top 4.
But they are like Reform is a far more mainstream party than we were basically.
We're not even a party. We're independent.
But they are not approved. That's really the defining difference. Because,
regime approved.
Yeah, whatever you want. You can argue whether conservative versus Labour and all that sort of thing. But ultimately, when you take a step back, these parties all represent the same kind of vision of the future, and they all agree on 95% of things, and they argue details to make it seem like people have a choice, when in fact they don't. They're all basically the same. They're staffed by the same direction. Staffed by the same type of people and travelling in the same direction. But they pull the wool over people's eyes by pretending to argue.
How big is Reform? Like, how big is the
Reform
party?
is big
compared to like Labour? Or
yeah, well, I mean, in terms of attention and polling, Reform is doing very well. I mean, there's been several polls over the last few days that have seen Reform overtake the Conservative Party, which is unprecedented.
How many members are there of Reform?
I think that they're over 50,000 now.
So how many members are in Labour? I mean, not as in like.
Well, so
voters.
you have you have the membership, which is normal people who pay to be members of the party. Reform have 50,000. I'm not sure how many Labour have. I think it's hundreds of thousands.
Okay.
But Reform is an insurgent new party, so it's quite impressive that they've managed to sort of amass that much attention in such a short time.
Reform to get into like all those, say, we were just talking about those debates that they had on TV and stuff like that. How would Reform be part of that? Did they have to get bigger? Or?
They would have had to have run a candidate in the previous election, but the problem with that is Reform didn't exist at the previous election.
Oh, right.
So again, it's just not fair.
But even at the next mayoral elections, they came fifth at the last election.
Yeah.
So the mainstream media, again, are just going to run that same stupid excuse.
Yeah.
You weren't in the top, because they're only going to bring 4, and the top 4 were the same top 4, Green, Lib Dem, Labour, Conservatives.
Yeah.
I mean, unless, I guess you could say this general election, if you Reform get like a massive result, they come second, then they gain loads of seats all over the country. I mean, that would be something the mainstream media is going to struggle to say.
It's possible. It's possible, but we'll have to see, I guess. I mean, it would be quite heartening to see an actual insurgent dissident party make some progress, because that hasn't happened for a very long time. But we'll have to see, But if they do win, that's good for everyone. That's good for people like us, because what that means is it can be done.
Yeah. I think we know it can be done. What was his name? George Galloway.
Well, he's a prime example. It's funny, really, because I don't think any of us agree with George Galloway on basically anything. But we were looking at him during the campaign as an example of a politician who knows how to play the game.
He's a master.
Very effectively. I mean, he's brilliant.
A master politician.
Who is he, sorry?
George Galloway.
Don't you remember when we was campaigning about that geezer up north? He was actually one of the... He was a mayoral candidate.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
He was the UK Reform mayoral candidate.
No, he was Workers' Party of Britain, which is his party.
Oh, was it Workers' Party of Britain? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
but then went over to UK Reform. Oh, yeah. So,
no, he's not Reform UK.
Oh, is it Workers' Party of Britain up?
Yeah.
Oh, my. Okay, so I thought he was Reform. My bad. Yeah. But he was the candidate for. What is it? Is it Britain First or Workers' Party?
Workers' Party of Britain is his party.
It's just his own party. All right, there you go. Fair enough.
Yeah.
So he was a candidate for Mayor of London.
Yeah, and then he switched to Rochdale.
He literally just dropped the mayoral campaign and went and took Rochdale constituency. The seat there.
And he ran an extremely well targeted campaign, which basically that's what won him the seat. It was a masterclass. Again, whatever you want to say about the guy. He knows how to play the game.
He knows how to play politics.
Yeah.
He's a master politician.
Yeah.
Do you remember what he done? So there's a very large population of Muslim people living in Rochdale, and then there's a very large population of, just general Anglo-Saxon English people living there. So he wrote a very specific letter out to the Muslim community, and then a very specific letter out to the English community.
Yeah, and delivered those letters to each house based on who was living there.
Targeted it.
Yeah,
really? And
no one clocked.
They didn't clock until after. So this is what I'm saying. The letter that went out to the Muslim community, it started with "Salam alaikum, brother." Brothers and sisters. It literally started with that. Charlie showed me a copy of that letter, and then the one to the English one went completely different.
But again, people will look at that and they'll think, "Wow, they'll think that's like duplicitous."
He's fucking nuts.
Yeah, and dishonest. But ultimately, he's in Parliament now. He won.
Yeah. He's a politician. He didn't break any laws doing that, but he's a fucking, what do you want to call it, a scumbag for playing people.
Once they saw that it was all wrong, they not just get him out.
They've already democratically voted him in to that seat now. There's no one doing that. Unless there was some
we vote someone out, you can't vote them out.
No,
that's
the next election.
referendum,
When's the next election?
Oh,
for this? Is it?
Well, there'll be by-elections, but the latest that the next election can be is like 2029 type time.
There you go. So he's got that seat now for the next.
Although saying that he has to win this general election to keep his seat, but he probably will. He's polling well.
He's holding it well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Send out his letters again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Hey, well, he probably will. Because it worked so well last time.
That's so funny.
It's nuts.
He played the game, man. That's what I'm saying, and that's one thing I don't think I did very well at. I didn't play the politician game.
Well,
I was just myself for most of it. I tried. I really feel like I sort of tried to.
Yeah.
And I think I did a little bit in some areas.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I definitely took advice from you.
Yeah.
I followed your advice, but for the most part of it, I think as a politician, I would say I was a basic amateur.
but you were honest.
I was honest, and that's just me as a person,
Yeah.
and that's something I don't think I'd ever be able to change, even if I, was in politics for 10, 20 years.
Yeah.
That would always be me.
Well, that's the problem with the system that we have, is it selects for people who are prepared to be
play that game,
dishonest and duplicitous.
And
it's experience as well, though.
Yeah.
I loved it, enjoyed it, but it's mad, like, because most politicians, like for example, like Sadiq Khan, he was a lawyer before, he was a barrister.
Oh, many
and
cases, many such
artists, distorting the truth to however, and then other people, who are politicians, actors go into politics, like again, they're used to playing roles.
It's the debating game, innit? It's the art of persuasion.
That's I mean, you're just fooling people, aren't you?
That's what it literally is.
You're
convincing someone, I'm going to do something for you. It's like that whole definition that we just talked about. Like that's literally what it is. It's just convincing London or the nation that they're going to do what you want, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And most of the time they don't.
It's almost like you can think of it like it's like casting spells over people. Using your words in a weird kind of a way.
No, it is. It's the ultimate manipulation.
Yeah.
Like just right in your face.
Yeah.
I'll do this and then just don't do it.
Yeah. But you know what? One thing I know though, when something's real, and it, they call it grassroots, comes up from the ground, whatever, that when that gains momentum, it becomes like an unstoppable force.
Yeah.
When that's something I learned through like the whole COVID thing.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't, I wasn't doing it for any political, I guess it was slightly political, or whatever, but I wasn't doing it for that reason. I was doing it because I felt I was doing what was right.
Yeah.
And it just became unstoppable. When something like that takes off, all these politicians, they just literally get blown over in the wind or whatever.
Yep.
So that's coming. I don't know where it's coming from, whether it's me at the next mayor elections, because I definitely want to do it.
Do you know what though? We're lucky we're in this day and age though, and we're lucky you're kind of right now at this point, because like we've got the internet, you've got your own like media, you've got your own media capabilities.
We've got this,
now.
we're doing this right
we can
now.
do this, and it can grow, and in the next 4 years, we don't know where we'll be, but you've got your own channel. Like you might be able to get out there and be able to like promote yourself in a way that no Sadiq Khan could, kind of like, get really into the masses, kind of thing.
We're definitely going to be hotting up people. You
think about it. If it was 40 years ago, there's no chance, innit? You could go out, you probably talk to about 10 people, and no one would know who you are. But at least this way, like we've got social media, we've got podcasts, we've got all sorts of like. There's so much you can do. You can take advantage of. It's only going to get more.
Yeah, I guess a lot of people do know who I am through social media, but then there's a lot of people who know who I am not through social media, like the news and that, the general, being on the news for whether they believed I was doing something right or wrong. But they know now. I guess everywhere I go, I'll go somewhere and someone knows who I am. It's probably almost every day I'll go somewhere and someone's like, Andreas, I voted for you.
Yeah.
And I will have like, honestly, it warms my heart when that happens as well, wouldn't it? It was even today, I was at Clissold Park. I took my son to his football lesson there, and then after he wanted to get in the park, and there was this sort of middle-aged Jewish man, and he was like, I voted for you.
Yeah.
He said to me, I voted for you after I watched it at the JW3 Centre. He goes, man, I loved it. He goes to me. That honestly, it warms my heart.
Yeah. You know what's really weird about this whole thing though is how many people said that and how many people was going to vote for you, and then it just didn't. It just doesn't it feel a little bit, tiny bit rigged? Like something wasn't
I had
right.
this conversation. I've had it so many times with, honestly, it stings me sometimes. I'm like, because that many people, I feel it all the time. They're like, they voted for me.
I was there, I was watching. I was telling people all
and
the
then
time,
you just like,
mad.
wow, was it, I mean, what did I get? Was it
26,000?
6 or 27? Yeah, 26,000.
All right, let me just say this shit. When we was out, if one of our catchphrases was "get rid of Khan," And we would say, get rid of Khan, and people would turn back and walk back and take a flyer. Like the amount of people that didn't like Sadiq Khan or Susan Hall, whoever, like, they were against them, and they were saying they're going to vote for
nuts,
you. I honestly believe we had a chance. But when the numbers come in, it was
it's mad. Honestly, how what you see, you know, with your own eyes and what you hear with your own ears. And we went to everywhere in London, right?
Yeah.
What was it like? Maybe 1 in 100 people would be like, "Oh no!" Maybe in certain areas you bump into a couple more.
Richmond,
but just in generally speaking, everybody fucking hated Sadiq Khan. Everybody, and it was just like, I don't understand. How did he get over 1 million votes? Like it shocks me sometimes. You know, like, did that really happen? And it wasn't really. But
I will say this though, you know, something that I thought was really interesting when we were out campaigning was the number of kids who came up to us, who were not old enough to vote, but they come up to us and be like, "You're that guy, you know, I love you, you know, you're amazing," all that sort of thing. What you've got to remember is these kids next time are going to be old enough to vote. And that's the most encouraging thing about what's happening now is, I mean, I'm 22, right? Young people are waking up. Young people are taking interest in politics, and they are waking up to the fact and realizing that the current system we have is outdated, and the people who represent it, whether it's Sadiq Khan or Rishi Sunak or Keir Starmer or whoever, they belong to an old paradigm, and something new is coming, and it's inevitable. It can't be stopped.
Yeah, you were. Yeah, I was about to say you wasn't there that day. Remember when we went to Hyde Park?
Yeah,
man. Honestly. That right there was that. Honestly, it was nuts.
It looked nuts.
I thought every person in Hyde Park was going to vote for you. That's what it felt like. It felt like the way that everyone was coming to you and interacting, engaging.
But that's the thing.
All of that,
I'd say more than around half, maybe if not more, were probably underage though, right?
Yeah,
they were. Like around 18. A lot of them you could see clearly they were younger than 18, innit? But yeah, like Charlie said, the next election in 4 years' time, they're going to be over the age. They're going to be thinking the same thing, you know. Little man Khan, he's some dinosaur. Just screwing us over. That's the guy I remember him last time. So
Yeah, but people are just crying out for fresh ideas, fresh leadership, because we haven't had it for a very long time.
Well, this generation is different, isn't it? They're really, well, I don't. It's not woke, is it? It's more like their eyes are open. They get to see a lot more. Like generations before, you know, like we talked to a lot of old people. They were like, "Oh, I've always voted for Labour. I'll never vote for anyone else." That's because they've kind of been put into that channel, like they can't get out of it. But the younger generation, they're seeing everything. So in like in 5 years, whatever, when they can vote, it's gonna be a different thing, isn't it? They're gonna be looking.
I'm hoping so, man. Because honestly, this time round, when the votes came in, I was a little bit shocked because like you said, we felt the appetite when we were out there. We wanted something different. They've had enough. And then it just came in. It was like, wow, really? Like 1 million votes.
Well, I was in there on City Hall, and I was thinking, this is all to play for. We could come in at 200,000 votes, we could win, or we could get nothing. You know,
anything could have happened, didn't it?
Yeah. But I think we, all things considered, considering what we were up against, I think we did really well.
Yeah.
You know,
and I took away, like we said, we took away so much knowledge from that. Learned so many lessons. So the next run, we're gonna fucking kick some ass, man. We're gonna
straight up
enjoy that.
I wanted to just say something like, because you just said just a minute ago, you said you're 22.
And
anyone that's watching this is not thinking that you're a 22-year-old. You sound like you're about. You sound like you got the knowledge of a 40-year-old, like, but you're 22 years old. I swear down, man. You're a knowledgeable guy, man. You got a lot going on for you. What are you doing at the moment, anyway?
I'm working on a few different things. I can't go into too much of it, but very secret. But just politics in general. I mean, it's
non-disclosure agreements.
We need some exclusives, though. We're just getting started.
Well, the thing is, like I said, when you work in politics, as I do, it's a lifestyle. It's not really a job. It's not really a kind of normal kind of job. Because you're moving through this world, and it's all about creating these connections. It's all about meeting people. It's all about broadening your network, sniffing out opportunities, and this sort of thing. So you have to have a little bit of something about you to succeed in this world. Because if you do just want the kind of 9 to 5, be told what to do type lifestyle, politics isn't going to work for you. Because you need to have that little bit of something. You got to be always looking for the next opportunity type thing.
There's a lot of people talking about the hustings that we went to. There was a lot of the team that were they seemed like those kind of 9 to 5 kind of people. Or
I guess what I'm saying is, I could have quite easily come out of university and gone to work for some Tory or, some MP or something in Parliament and done the kind of 9 to 5 thing. And I know lots of people who did that, and they love the life because they go to Parliament and then they go out for drinks afterwards, and they're doing, they're just doing all sorts of stuff all the time.
Yeah.
And the kind of culture around Parliament is just horrible. I hate it around there because the types of people that it attracts are just the worst types of people. So I could have done that quite easily, but what I chose to do instead was go out basically into the political wilderness and find people like Andy and be an insurgent and a dissident, because that's, for one thing, a lot more fun, a lot more interesting, a lot more exciting, but also necessary, because I believe that the system that we live under is completely corrupt and completely against the interests of the people. And so somebody has to do something about it. Yeah. And I believe it's the duty of people who do have a certain skill for politics to use that skill for good, because most don't. Most do it just to line their own pockets and just to advance their own station. Whereas, it used to be that leadership was regarded as a duty and something that you were compelled to do, not something that you did for your own ends. But like I say, I love working in politics because it's very fulfilling, it's very fun, but it's also very, very, it's a lifestyle. You don't have a lot of free time. But, that's kind of the sacrifice you have to make. And ultimately, the cause is important enough that it's worth it, is basically how I see it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
This is why me and Charlie clicked.
Yeah.
Really, because I think I'm almost old enough to be Charlie's dad.
Yeah.
Right? Around that age.
Yeah.
But I remember the first time I met him, it was just like, I always work off energy. Energy is always the first thing. And I thought, all right, yeah, he's got the right energy. He said all the right things and whatever. And we're definitely on the same page with a lot of things. And there's like, as time went by and I got to know Charlie more, I was like, yeah, he was the perfect man for the job.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, we did click though. It was fantastic, because again, despite coming from such different walks of life and also being very different ages, we agreed on a lot. We saw the world in the same way in a lot of different ways. And it's amazing how many people I meet who are like that, because I don't know, it's those people who have a certain something extra about them. They have this certain quality that, they can be very different in other ways, but if you have that certain awareness, of the wider world and how things are actually working, you can get on with them,
Yeah, there's a lot of people right now, awareness is really sort of like taken off over the last few years. But it's just like having that awareness and also being able to sort of like, how can I put it? Sort of being politically...
Charged?
Am I using
aware?
The word? Aware, yeah. It's just more like... I can't explain it. Yeah, just knowing how politics works, but being aware at the same time.
Yeah,
because politics and sort of that awareness kind of they clash a little bit.
Well, you said something to me once that really stuck with me, which was before you did the mayor thing, you thought politics was really complicated and really kind of incomprehensible. But then when we started to get into it and when we started having conversations, you realise it's actually very simple.
And that's the most simplest thing in the world, man.
That's the truth. Is the kind of image of complexity and like just incomprehensibleness that politics has is itself part of the strategy. Because if people feel that they can't even begin to understand what's actually happening, well, why even bother, But when you actually pull back the curtain and look at the system for what it is and the way it actually works, it's actually very simple.
Super simple. Yeah. People just get lost in, all these weird things about politics, but it's just the most basic thing. Like I remember the very first thing you said to me as well, when it just... as things went by, I understood it more. Like, for example, the political compass. It's just one of the most useless fucking pieces of dumb shit ever.
It is.
It's just like, there's a box. Where are you in that box? The rest of the world doesn't exist. You can only exist in that box. Like,
to go on from that, and on the point of simplicity, I believe that in the modern kind of paradigm that we live in, the notion of like left versus right is basically meaningless at this point. Because in my opinion, the political distinction that matters is whether you support or oppose the power structure that we live beneath, because that's basically going to inform everything else, which is why we were looking at somebody like George Galloway as a political friend, because as much as we disagree with a hell of a lot of what he says, and he is he's a bit of a nutter, he is an enemy of the power structure. And so in him, we recognised there was a certain similarity between him and us, despite being so, on the surface, so different. There was that kind of similarity. And I think the same is true of Nigel Farage, actually. However much you might disagree with him, I'm a fan of him, as you know.
You are or you're not a fan? Do you say you are?
No, I am.
Oh, okay.
He has that same kind of quality. He is a kind of anti-establishment dissident type figure.
100% he is, 100%.
Yeah.
This is what I'm saying. Politics is so much more black and white than what people think. It's really simple. Like it's people think it's this complex.
Well, it's suits and shoes, innit? Suits and shoes, I suppose. That's what you try to break out of the whole idea that it's like this kind of complicated, structured. Like when you try, that's the symbolism of why he's wearing Jordans in the first place. Not today, but like
today. Sorry.
I don't know if you would have got away with a suit with Crocs. That might have been pushing it a little bit.
That'd have been cool.
That's the next time.
Honestly, I probably would have walked around with a suit and bare foot.
Yeah.
But the floor's a bit dirty out in London, so yes.
Yeah, it's like used needles and broken glass.
Yeah.
but on that simplicity, again, I think another thing that became very, very clear to me during the mayoral election is, again, just this notion of friends and enemies. Because as much as these big parties, Labour, Conservative, Lib Dem and Green, are nominally enemies, nominally they are having these arguments and these debates saying, oh, I disagree with you and all that sort of thing. When you actually look at what they believe and the types of people that make these parties up, they are all friends. And I'm not talking about like their mates and they go down the pub, although that is the case for a lot of them. I'm talking about political friends. Like they agree fundamentally on the direction that our society should be travelling in. And so there's no actual differences between them ultimately.
Meaningful distinctions.
Yeah.
They're 100%. They just bounce off each other.
Yeah.
And I learned that it was so fucking obvious during the campaigning. Just even the most basic things they were saying, but it had a massive effect. They were both saying this is a close 2-horse race in the thing, and it's like that. People ate that shit up.
Yeah.
They ate that shit up. They literally swallowed it, digested it, and kept it inside of them. Yeah. And it's like, how are they not understanding what they're being played for with just a simple sentence like that?
But this is why for such a long time it's been so easy for the political class, is because they've had Labour and Conservative in Britain, who again are on the surface different parties, but actually when they're both pushing essentially the same messages and yet still tricking the majority of the population into believing that they're different, well, they've got total control.
Yeah.
But now that that's breaking and the Conservative Party is basically collapsing, they're scared, and rightfully so, because people are going to.
It affects their whole sort of brainwashing power structure, doesn't it? Because they can't. If Conservative collapses, Reform becomes the next sort of powerful political party. They can't bounce off of Reform because Reform's going for gold.
And they'll do their best to capture and contain Reform, and they may well succeed at doing that because the power structure that we live under is incredibly effective at doing that.
Yeah.
But only time will tell.
Well, if Reform cracks the top two, they're not going to be able to bounce off each other, and then be interesting to see what happens after that.
Yeah.
I still say though, we need the rise of the independents to fuck up the show.
That's probably the start though, like a party that's not in the main four parties, isn't it? And then just
not a party, just independents, man.
No, I get that. That's really how we change things, like independence, like people actually taking notice of actual individuals trying to make a change, like instead of like a party. But I suppose that's the first foot in the door, innit? Kind of like a party that's not one of the main four.
That's what I'm saying.
Breaking the top,
red or
blue.
If Reform look like they're the only sort of candidate party to be able to do that.
Are you going to vote Reform?
I'm sorry, guys. I'm not voting.
I tell you what you should do. Go there.
I might strike my vote. Spoil the vote. Draw a picture of my finger or something.
Yeah. Because then at least it gets counted as like an anti-vote.
I might just write on it, fuck Sadiq Khan, he's a little cunt.
It's not extremely to do it. Not even Rishi Sunak, just Sadiq Khan.
What was I saying? It's just, we need rise of the independents right now. I think someone who's got, was it Jeremy Corbyn, isn't it? He's doing it for Islington North or something like that.
Yeah, he's independent,
Yeah, he's not a bad geezer. I'm not. I guess I'm. If we look at the political compass, he's quite a left type of person.
But again, this is the point: is he is somebody who, again, whatever you want to say about him, however much we might disagree with his views, he is somebody who is a dissident and who represents an anti-regime, anti-establishment figure. And for that, you can respect him.
Yeah, his brother's super anti-establishment.
Oh yeah, to say the least. God.
But Jeremy Corbyn, rise of the independents.
Who are you voting for, Charlie?
I'm decided yet.
Okay.
Honestly, because again, for as much as I like to, I'm enjoying what Reform are doing, but I still have this sense that spoiling my ballot as a protest is more powerful.
Okay.
But we'll have to see. I'm gonna make my mind up on the day.
You know what I think needs to happen as well? There needs to be a no vote box
Yeah, well, that's what spoiling a ballot is, basically.
Kind of.
Because it's counted.
It is, but it isn't. If you, is it counted as
Yeah,
well?
it's counted,
Fair enough. So, but I think it needs to be like almost like a formal box there.
Yeah.
Because what you're doing is you're saying, I don't vote for either. I don't agree with any of these parties, but that's me serious, because the spoil is almost looking at like you're childish throwing your vote away.
Well, there's a reason that it's phrased in that way, is to make it sound like you've
do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there needs to be some sort of formal, on this occasion, I don't agree with any of these candidates or these parties.
I do agree, but for now, I think I would encourage anybody who's not planning on voting at all to at least spoil your ballot, because then it's counted. And it's the same as not voting, but it's at least counted. Because if you don't vote at all, that could be for any reason. You could have been busy on the day. You could have forgot about it. You could have, or you could not, or you could be doing it as a protest. But that's not shown. Whereas if you spoil, it's very clearly a protest.
What happens when everyone votes? The spoil. It's spoil, yeah?
Oh, well, then the system collapses.
But what happens at the end of it? If the whole election
happened before, but
what does happen though? Do you know?
Still. What do you mean? Every single
not every single one. It was just the majority.
Well, they still count the votes. They still by law have to count the.
And if even one
if there's only one vote, then that party would win, or person would win. Yeah,
but surely the system would have completely lost legitimacy.
Yeah, but by that point it doesn't matter because the government would have, I'm guessing, been overthrown. Like if people are every single person in the UK not voting except for one, that you can safe to assume that nobody trusts the government.
Well, there's a certain line of argument which I hear from people who I sort of similar circles to me, who say that they want to see the Tories get 0 seats and Labour get like 600. Because whilst that would be terrible, because the Labour Party is terrible, what it would mean is the system will have completely lost legitimacy. Because if there's no opposition, if it's literally a one-party state, one-party Labour state, well, it's not a democracy anymore. And it's showing the so-called democracy that we have for being the farce that it is, basically.
Yeah.
I can see that argument. I just, I don't know about 600.
It's a lot of risk.
Jesus Christ, man. 600 left Labour lemmings.
But you're saying that's the breaking system. You're saying that's basically putting...
It would expose that the system is completely illegitimate.
Okay.
But, I mean, it would leave us with a massive Labour government.
Just to have a Labour government.
I don't know what would happen after that, but it would at least make it very, very obvious to the general public how the system actually works.
And then the rebellion starts.
Well, who knows?
The rebellion started already.
Yeah,
it's true. Not kicked up the right momentum yet.
Yeah,
that's all.
It's happening though. It's happening again. I'm very encouraged to see how many young people are actually rejecting the kind of system that we have. Of course, most people are still just ticking along and living their lives because most people don't think about politics. Most people don't care about politics, and
literally until maybe a few days before the election.
And I don't blame people for that because I
the
think
old people they're on it. They're posting their votes immediately. Like they're on it.
It's just like the last few days before the election. They start really pushing it out in the media. It starts going out in social media, and then people are like, oh yeah, we've got to vote or whatever, and then they're like, oh, who do I vote for? I don't even know anyone.
Red or blue,
and then they literally just get caught up in the usual brainwashing propaganda.
Probably just work chat. I'm going to vote for this, and then they just go and vote for the person that they heard.
I had one of my mates. He was voting in. I think it was in Brent Borough or Barnet Borough. And he went to the polling station to vote, and he hung around there for about half an hour or something. And he spoke to a few people going in, and he said of about the sort of 10 or so people I spoke to, they all had no idea who to vote for. So they didn't even know who the candidates were.
Yeah.
Literally didn't know nothing.
Yeah.
And he told all 10 of them to vote for me. He was like, vote for Andreas. And they all voted for me.
Well, that just shows how
clueless most people
When
are.
I went to go and vote, so obviously there was voting for you, but then there was 2 other things that I had no idea what they were. Do you remember the 2 other?
Oh, so that was for the assembly seat.
Yeah.
Well, the only reason I knew to vote for you is because I was following it through you. Through you. I was following the whole campaign through you. But the other 2, I didn't even know they existed.
So I voted for
David Curtin, right?
Yeah,
Heritage Party. Because you told me to vote for.
Yeah, Heritage Party. I don't think he won the seat.
No, he didn't, unfortunately.
No, but my point is that people are unaware. It's easy to be unaware of these things. Like, and I just don't know. Like,
it's a huge problem in London because what was it? About 40% of people voted at all at the mayoral election, something like that.
Was it? I think it was more than that, wasn't it?
Was it?
You're talking about 40% of registered voters, but then there's all the other people that weren't even registered.
Yeah.
I think it was something like, it was about 75-80% of London.
That's mad.
Of London. That's, everyone living there didn't vote.
It says a lot.
Says a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even like right now, what we were talking about there, the other two votes, you know, the assembly or whatever, people just don't even know what they're like. What's the assembly?
What the hell was that?
The assembly. Yeah.
That's what I was saying. I was aware of the actual voting, the mayoral candidate, mayor of London.
Yeah.
Because of you, but so when I got there and I just didn't know what. I remember I'm in it, so I'm watching. I'm talking about politics all the time and everything.
Yeah.
And I come there and I'm seeing these two next votes, and I'm like, what the hell is that?
Do you know what's even more shocking is most people, I say the majority of people don't even know what the Mayor of London is.
Yeah.
They don't know what the Mayor of London does, what his responsibilities are, and how much fucking power he holds.
Yeah.
If you ask 10 people what does the Mayor of London do, I guarantee you're going to get some funny answers.
Like I said, I started that with you. I didn't know anything here, but then going along, I started telling people about stuff. And they're like, what? Like, we told them the budget and you tell them what the powers, you have and all that stuff. They're like,
And that is the only, honestly, that
knows.
is the only political position I would ever run for, because and I'm not some power hungry person, but the amount of power is love.
I was like,
The amount,
I'm joking.
the amount of power that the Mayor of London holds and the little amount of accountability he has, it's insanity. Honestly, I would 100% argue that the Mayor of London has more power than the Prime Minister in London. That's for me, without a doubt.
Yeah.
I'd say yes.
Over important things like policing, for sure.
Over the most important things in London. You know, if the Prime Minister wants to actually do something in London, I mean, if he wants to do something in general, he needs to go and convince
there's so much,
there's so much shit in it. It might take a few years, and the amount of shit he has to go through to do that, sell his soul, grease palms, take it up the arse, give it up the arse. It's just like, it's just mad. Whereas the Mayor of London, literally, people don't know this. If he wants to do something, he literally goes like that, presses a button, gets done.
But the thing is, like the people not knowing what the Mayor of London does, who he is, or anything like that, that's part of the strategy.
Yeah.
It's part of it, because if people don't know, then people aren't going to engage and people aren't going to question.
And it also boils back to like accountability. One thing I saw a lot, you know, like with comments on social media and that, you know, like all of the failings of Sadiq Khan.
Yeah.
And people are like, I think during the campaign we had how many kids died or what, you know, stabbings and this and that. And then people are like, oh, you know, you can't really blame him for that. Comments and it's like,
no, you literally can. Yeah.
Fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, seriously, this person knows absolutely nothing. Like, you're just waffling some comment onto social media. He is fully responsible for that, and it's just, it shocks me how little people know.
Yeah, well, London's got 5 more years of that to look forward to.
Is it 5 or 4?
4, yeah, 4. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, 3 years and 10 months. I'm going to count it down because like I said, I will go for it again.
Yeah,
and it is the only political position I would go for.
Yeah.
Not that I don't like to be held accountable, but it has very little accountability. You know, you literally just answer to the assembly.
Yeah.
I think I would like to answer to the assembly as well, man.
Yeah, sure.
Have you seen the way it works? It's like almost like the Knights of the Round Table.
Yeah.
Like I think I'd enjoy something like that. Sitting there at the Knights of the Round Table with the London Assembly, you know, with them scrutinising me about anything I may have done wrong or something I'm not addressing, or, you know, like, I like to be held accountable. Yeah. I do like to be held accountable.
Donnie, would you like to be Mayor of London?
I mean, yeah, definitely. But what did you say about the assembly?
No, it was what you said. So the assembly is literally, they're the people that hold the Mayor of London accountable.
Yeah.
They're the people.
Oh, and where are the assembly?
They're in City Hall as well.
City Hall, So, you know, it will be in a large hall area, and you'll have the entire assembly.
And who makes up the assembly?
And they're elected.
They're elected.
They're elected.
Well, like MPs.
Democrat. So remember at the Mayor of London elections, you had 3 ballots. So one was for the Mayor of London, one was for the Assembly, one was for you elect the assembly members.
Yeah.
So
the Memberly Sembers.
The Memberly Assembers.
What do they do? They just grill the mayor, basically.
Pretty much.
Because the mayor, remember, the mayor has this massive budget. He controls the police, controls the transport infrastructure, controls higher education, all this sort of stuff. And he's literally can just do what he wants at all times. So the assembly's there to keep him in check, basically. But he can still do what he wants, even though the assembly's there.
If he can still do what he wants, what's the point in them? Are they just basically letting him know?
This is what I'm saying. This is why Sadiq Khan's such a little dick, because he don't.
Wait, was the assembly that thing that we watched? Like, he posted on Instagram.
Yeah, remember that video I posted? Yeah.
Okay. And they were asking questions.
Did you see how rude he was just telling them, mugging them off?
Yeah.
See, that's the difference between a good person and a fucking shit
You're
person,
saying
really,
Little
innit?
Man Khan for such a long time, and I was like, Little Man Khan, okay.
But this
I get
is it.
Yeah.
That's,
People he was acting like a little boy in that, and that's what I thought. That's what
people
I thought
think
at
I'm
that point.
referring to his actual physical height. It's not.
Everyone
That's
needs to go and watch that.
Just so
Everyone needs to go and
happens
watch
that
that.
he is physically, you know, about the size of my ding dong. But yeah,
No, but he was so childish in that video. I was like, he literally is a little man.
I think my ding dong is maybe a bit bigger than.
All right,
that.
well, we're going off topic here. Let's move back over. So sorry. There's the assembly, so they do that. And what was the other one that we was meant to vote for? Like, do you remember?
What was the other one, Charlie? So the Assembly members, Mayor of London, and then it was the.
It was the Police and Crime Commissioner. Wasn't it?
No, it wasn't.
No,
Police and
that's
Crime.
that's
No, the Police and Crime
elsewhere.
Commissioner
Is the mayor,
chosen
yeah.
by the. Well, the mayor is the highest, but
Yeah.
he chooses who the police commissioner is, isn't it?
I should probably know that. I should probably know what the third one was, but I can't remember.
It was. Yeah.
I remember assembly in it, but
Yeah.
yeah, there's so much, man. That's what I'm saying. I need to definitely ask more questions in general.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I mean, the kind of
Sorry,
confusing.
it was London-wide. London-wide GLA. The GLA.
Greater London Assembly.
Greater
Yeah.
London. Yeah. No, it was the London Assembly, and then it was the GLA. Was it returning officer or something?
I don't think you elect them.
I mean, the
Anyway.
returning officer is not.
The
elected,
point is,
yeah,
the confusion is again part of the strategy, because this was the case internally in the campaign as well, because the number of hoops that we had to jump through to even get on the
the
ballot,
nomination process. Wow,
it's just mad.
Yeah.
It's mad how much stuff
And you can see how
yeah.
difficult it was because of. I think there was a good 3 or 4 maybe that declared their candidacy that
Yeah.
didn't even make it in, like Lawrence Fox, and
Yeah.
he was quite.
And
I'd say
our
he's
boy, what was his name? Who came to City Hall and handed out his little leaflets?
The other Asian guy's name.
No, I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about.
Oh right, the Hoff.
Yeah, Hoff. Yeah,
Remember
yeah.
I've forgotten his name.
Yeah.
Now. Nick. Something.
Nick Hoff,
Nick
yeah.
Hoff was that? Yeah.
Our boy. Yeah.
Nick Hoff. Yeah. There was that as well. Yeah. But
Yeah.
I mean, some bigger players didn't even.
Well,
make it in.
Lawrence Fox. Yeah.
So this is the play. This is how they get you. They just confuse you, make you feel like it's something you don't have too much control over. There's only 2 people. There's only 2 groups to vote for.
Yeah.
This thing's all complicated. It's going to overwhelm you basically. So
Yeah.
you don't know anything.
Yeah.
Well, they placed it like this. They're like, there's only 2 that can win, red or blue. They're the only 2 that can win, and they use various tactics for that. Close to horse race.
Yeah, close
but
to
then they have the mayoral debates. So they're like, right, you've got your 2 that are the only ones that can win. However, here's some alternatives.
Yeah.
So we've got a pool of 4.
Yeah.
Like that, and that is it. That is it.
Yeah.
Everything else, is just in the shadows. You've got to somehow come up, crawl your way out of the swamp.
Yeah.
Let everybody know, look, I'm alive. Like,
Yeah. But again, thinking about the difference between what we had to do to even get on the ballot versus what Labour and Conservative had to do. Labour and Conservative, they did that in a day.
Yeah.
They did the signature. So what we had to
Probably
do was
not
get
even a day.
Yeah.
Not even a day. Their organisation, the way I saw their organisation,
Yeah.
they
But we-
probably
so
sent
it's-
out one,
Yeah.
email that went out to the people that
Yeah.
nominated them last time. They probably came in within a
Yeah.
few hours done.
Yeah, but we had to get between 10 and 20 signatures from different people who are registered to vote from every single borough of London, plus the City of London. So that's 33 boroughs. And I mean, it was literally just you and me. We were just going literally every single day.
Something from that as well. Me being the person I am. Fuck it, let's get out there, proactive.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do this shit myself or whatever. That was a colossal journey in itself.
Yeah.
Just that. But looking back now, again,
Yeah.
I learned so much more
Yeah.
efficient, easy ways to do that.
Yeah.
You just get a couple of people in each borough.
Yeah.
Probably female people to go out. Where
Yeah.
it was just me and you, 2 males walking up
Yeah.
to.
Random
just
people.
random people,
Yeah, literally,
might
yeah.
sign in this or whatever.
Yeah. It was a lot. I mean, it was a lot of fun, like everything. It was an adventure going
Loved it.
around,
Absolutely loved
seeing
it.
every single side of London.
Yeah.
Really seeing
And
what
I
it's like.
wouldn't change it for nothing. What happened
Yeah.
happened, and I'm so happy. The way it went. That's it. I'm happy.
agree.
I'm
Yeah.
happy, and I learned so much from it.
Yeah.
It's like anything in my life. I like to go through the pipelines and learn it.
Yeah.
So man, it's good watching you lot. It's good filming you lot, seeing how it all goes.
Yeah,
and that.
man.
Nice.
Yeah.
See, it was good stuff.
Yeah,
Right,
it's awesome.
because it is summer solstice. We are gonna.
Do you even know the time?
Yeah.
It's 8:45 now. So it's summer
Wait,
solstice
you missed
today.
it.
Oh shit, yeah.
No,
You said 8:30?
No. The sun
Oh,
sets.
okay.
I think it's
Explain
9.
what the summer solstice is.
The summer. The summer solstice. So this is an actual meaningful event. You're confused. A lot of events in the calendar are just, I'd say, they're meaningless, innit? Like they're there for one reason or the other, but they're just confusing. You're led to believe that the year ends on the 31st of December. It doesn't. astrologically end on the date of 31st of December. So the Earth is spinning and orbiting around the sun, yeah? So 1 year is literally when it goes from that point and then reaches that point again. Now, the Earth is at a tilt when it's spinning, yeah? So as it goes round during that tilt, at different points in the year, you'll get more light and more daytime. Now, when you reach the summer solstice, that in the northern hemisphere, that's when you'll be exposed to the most light. You'll be facing the sun for the most amount of time in a period.
You saying that, yeah, it's the maddest thing. It's 10 o'clock the other night and it was broad daylight.
Yeah. So you'll notice that this time of year,
I've never even seen it like that in my life.
This time of year, the further north you are in the northern hemisphere, for example, right now in northern parts of Norway, they don't have a nighttime.
Yeah.
So it's just daytime constantly. It might be, now it might have actually been daytime for a few days, even a week in the Arctic. You're just not going to get any nighttime at all. So yeah. And then in between so you've got the summer solstice and the winter solstice. Obviously, in the northern hemisphere, the winter solstice, we have the least amount of daylight. So it's going to be pretty much nighttime by about 3:30 in the afternoon in the northern hemisphere. In the southern hemisphere, in the winter solstice, it's what we're experiencing now, more daylight. Now, in between them, you have the vernal equinox and the autumn equinox. Yeah, you've got the equinoxes. So those points there are when the tilt reaches exactly the even amount in the northern and southern hemispheres. So you'll get the same amount of daylight in the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere at the equinoxes.
Do you know what? Yeah, that was a great explanation, yeah. But I need to ask one more question, but can we just a little bit condense it? Because why are you actually celebrating? What are you celebrating right now? What do you mean? What are we actually doing?
It's a meaningful event. This is what I'm saying.
Yeah, what are you going to go and do? That's what I meant. What are you going to go and do?
I'm just going to go watch the sunset.
You're going to
I'm going to go sit up at Ali Pali.
Bust off all your clothes.
He's going to go to Stonehenge and do like some
Yeah.
You're going to bust off all his clothes and you're just going to run bare fast.
I'm going to go up to Ali Pali. I've never actually gone up to Ali Pali for a solstice before because the hill you sort of sit on is east facing, which isn't great for a sunset. You want to be facing the west, seeing the sun drop. Yeah. But nevertheless, it's a beautiful place. It's the highest point in London, the highest natural point in London.
Are you going to pray or anything?
What to the
sun god?
The sun god, yeah.
To Valhalla,
pagan.
The sun god. The sun god.
Yeah, the sun god. Yeah,
Apollo.
yeah. But it's an astrological event.
Okay.
Because technically, this wouldn't be the new year. This is halfway through the year. The new year would be the vernal equinox in around March time or something like that.
All right. Nice.
Is it March? Yeah, March time or something like that. So that is the real new year.
Has that answered your question, Tony?
Do you know what? Don't really remember what you said, but kind of, yeah.
But cool.
Yeah, cool. That's it.
Yeah, but it's getting very close. It's 10 to 9, so that's what I'm going to do right now. So we're going to finish up right now. This has been the first show, so a bit of teething issues here and there. Donnie talking a bit of doo-doo at the beginning.
Yeah. I was talking doo-doo. I'm going to cut that out.
And sitting on that stage
talking doo-doo. Doo-doo. That's like your catchphrase.
I'm going to have to put links to all of these things that we talked about at the bottom.
Yeah. But so we're going to end it here. We have a wall over there, which we're going to, every single person that comes in, so Charlie, you're going to be the first person to sign the wall.
Hey.
And before we go, I think we're going to do something like every guest that comes in needs to leave with a catchphrase or even just a sentence or something you want everyone to, remember you by or, strike them by or go on.
Yeah.
How do you want to end it? You're ending it, Charlie.
Okay. Revolution is coming and we are inevitable.
I like that. I fucking like that.
I've known Charlie for a little while now, and that represents him. That represents.
I like that.
That's good. That's good.
The revolution is coming, and it's inevitable.
We are inevitable.
We are inevitable.
This ain't the last time you see Charlie on the show, either.
Yeah,
we're gonna. He's gonna be back.
He's gonna be. He's gonna be.
But you only get to sign it once, right?
Yeah. Okay. Fine.
Sign the wall once. Come with another catchphrase next time as well.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
But that was a good one.
Yeah.
All right. So every person that comes in has to end it going, hey, come on. So you have to end it on, hey, come on.
Which camera shall I look at, Dom?
Wherever you want.
Look at that camera.
Middle one.
So big energy.
Way, come on.
Way, yes,
Done.
that's
We're done. We're out.
I've got a lot of experience doing that,
Yeah,
hanging
yeah.
around people. So.